Alright, folks, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let's talk about it. Alright, so Doctor Strange 2, one that a lot of people were hyped for. I was of course hyped, but probably not as much as everybody else. Even if you go back to, I'll put it up there probably, my top 10 most anticipated films of the year. It was an honorable mention, so it didn't even crack the top 10. But it came out, and ironically, I wasn't as hyped for it as most people, and I think I probably liked it more than most people. Let's get into why. The first thing here that I want to discuss that is impossible to miss here is the Raimi style. Sam Raimi directed this film, obviously, and he has a very unique style of directing. And I think there were a lot of concerns from people about whether or not this would be a Raimi film or whether or not it would be a Marvel, a more typical, like, standard directed, not really many Raimi-isms. But you can clearly see that this is a Raimi film. A lot of it feels very Sam Raimi. Like, it's impossible to miss. Like, if you had to guess the director, everyone who knows Sam Raimi would guess Sam Raimi. And I like that. I like that the MCU is giving auteurs a chance to direct films in their own unique styles. I personally don't love Raimi's style, okay? I thought it worked well for this film. I appreciated getting to see it. I have not seen any of the Evil Dead films or Army of Darkness. I have only seen his Spider-Man films. So there is a gap in my Sam Raimi knowledge. But I was not the biggest fan of it in general. There are just not things I love about it. And I think that's fine. I'm glad that he has an audience out there, that people are receptive to his work, because he's clearly a very creative guy. And I'm glad that he is, once again, I hope, he's back making films, because I will still, of course, watch them. And there is some stuff I like. I do like that he's a bit campy, and when everybody's trying to be super serious these days. But in general, I tend to lean towards the no. I'm just not the biggest fan of his style. And then sort of in line with that, there's just some ridiculous stuff in this film that I can only imagine is as a result of Sam Raimi. Like the fact that stuff you would just never think you would see. Wanda crawls out of the reflection like some twisted creature. There's a music note fight between two Doctor Stranges, which is, personally, I thought it was just really stupid. And not even really that fun to watch, I gotta say. But certainly unique, that's undeniable. There's the fact that the entire climax of the film is actually not Doctor Strange, but it's Doctor Strange possessing a dead Doctor Strange's body, who has a cape of like demon things, these flying demon things that he's flying around and using to his advantage. Just stuff I never would have thought would have been in the MCU. It's not really a necessary positive or negative thing. You'd have to take it sort of on a case-by-case basis. But it's certainly there as a result of Raimi, and I just thought I'd call attention to it. There's some writing issues in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I don't think anybody would deny that. Certainly some gaps here. It is a very short film. I can imagine maybe some of it was cut. A lot of exposition-heavy scenes. And just general, there's arguments to be made that motivations of characters are just not really believable with these characters that we've come to know. They don't really feel like they are doing the things they've been set up to do. So I think the writing is certainly not the strongest suit of this film. I think we should talk about the Illuminati, which is really probably the main subject of discussion of this film. I think a lot of people are saying the cameos are forced. I would agree. It's pretty clear that the cameos are forced in there. I don't think that they are integral. I don't think anyone would argue that they're integral to the film at all. But I think where I would differ on this opinion is that I still enjoyed the cameos. I appreciated them, and I'm glad they're there. And I think the movie is better for it. Is the scene entirely exposition heavy? Yes. Are all of the characters necessary? No, not really, right? Like the cameos in No Way Home, the two Spider-Men, are necessary to the film. The film does not work without the two Spider-Men. The same cannot be said. for Multiverse of Madness. But I did still appreciate their inclusion. So now I'm going to spoil. I'm going to spoil big time. And we're going to take the cameos one at a time. We're going to talk about is his name Black Bolt? I think it is. I don't know why that's in my head. But I didn't know him before. Seems like a pretty ridiculous guy. I guess he's the leader of the Inhumans or whatever. But he has that cool scene where he kills himself by blowing like a hole in his head kind of thing. You'll know if you've seen the film. So that was cool, I guess. Captain Marvel, Maria Rambeau version, cool. You know, I like seeing like stuff like that, like a character that is played by a slightly different, like what if they had gone a slightly different route kind of thing. Maria Rambeau was also a fighter pilot, of course, so it's certainly possible that she would have been Captain Marvel. So I do think that was a cool twist. Same vein, Captain Carter, who I thought was, I unfortunately knew she was going to be in the film before I saw it, but it was awesome to see her. I'm really glad we did. You know, I saw her in What If, obviously, and I think it was cool that they put her in live action. You have Professor X, who is, if I could cut one cameo, it would be him, because he just feels out of place. I don't know why he's really here, because it's not like they tie to the X-Men or anything like that in the film. He doesn't do a whole lot. I like Professor X, I really do, but I just don't. His inclusion here is just one of the most odd things. And then something really funny that I feel like I should share with all of you is that the first watch I noticed that he had, like, he's driving around this massive yellow, I called it a Zamboni, this yellow Zamboni thing. It's a ridiculous looking vehicle. Like, they didn't give him a wheelchair. Usually he's driving around some wheelchair or something. He's in this massive yellow car. It looks ridiculous. And then the second time I watched this film, I watched it really late with a friend. I felt like such an asshole because we were dying laughing every time he showed up on screen. So if you see this film again, you got to pay attention to the chair. It is hilarious. I don't know why. Maybe I was just in like a really laughing mood. But I just kept thinking about Professor X in that stupid chair, just rolling around. Ridiculous. It's a hilarious chair. That's just as an aside. And then you have the elephant in the room, which is John Krasinski as Reed Richards. And, you know, what can I say? I think that's pretty cool. I wasn't really fan casting anyone as Reed Richards or the Fantastic Four in general, but it's pretty clear that he was like the far and away the most fan casted for this role. And so it's cool to see that they clearly went that path, that they chose him. Is he perfect in this movie? No. I definitely saw some criticisms about his performance that I will, concede. But I think it was still pretty cool to see him and Reed Richards finally introduced. Not really the smartest man in the universe, I would say, given that he dies almost instantly without really much of a fight. But really cool to see him. It was really cool. And I had this audience. I saw it on Thursday night previews. Nobody cheered for anything. So I was getting excited. I was like, what? And everybody was like, crickets in the theater. So that was unfortunate because I was pretty excited for that. That was like the only one. But that was cool. And then you have the cameo fight with Wanda, obviously. And honestly, that might be my favorite scene in the film, just because I think it's really cool to see Wanda utilize her power like that, to see all these cameos sort of torn to shreds. It was just really, like, it was enjoyable. There's something, it's like an Omni-Man, what are they called? The Guardians of the Globe. It's like an Omni-Man Guardians of the Globe moment, or a Homelander fucking shit up moment, right? Like, just, it's cool to see people just absolutely decimate things that we know are powerful. It's just something cool. I don't know what to say. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. And it is it's probably the most violent scene in the MCU. If I had kids, I don't know if I'd take them to it. I don't know that it would be rated R. I have seen that said. There's a bit of controversy I've just seen brewing about the violence of the film. I don't think it's completely unwarranted. I mean, the scene is clearly violent, and there is some violent stuff in there. But I mean, I think it's my favorite scene of the film. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm glad that the MCU is willing, and I assume that's Raimi. I assume in large part Raimi is responsible for just the gruesome nature of this fight. But I enjoyed it. I'm going to say something perhaps controversial. I know I'm not the only one who has said this, though, so I feel a bit more comfortable saying it. Wanda is a very fascinating character in this film. I've been waiting a long time for her villain arc. You know, we sort of saw an inkling of it in WandaVision, and we finally get it here. And she really goes crazy. She has cemented herself as one of the greatest villains in the MCU, in my opinion, for all of the stuff that she does in this film. She really goes crazy. Like, folks, she is just insane. Again, I just talked about my favorite scene in the film where she's going crazy, killing all these insanely powerful people, supposedly the most powerful people in the multiverse. And I think she's a great character. I really do. Elizabeth Olsen, though, in this role only, I think in WandaVision she gives a phenomenal performance, one of the greatest in the MCU. But in this specific film, there are multiple instances that I would consider her overacting. Didn't really decrease my enjoyment of the film, but it's just noticeable and a bit distracting, I have to say. I still love Wanda. I think there are multiple times in the film that Elizabeth Olsen turns in a great performance that really increases that attachment to Wanda as a character. But there are also times where it is just a bit distracting and it takes me out of it a bit. Still, Wanda, great character. Love her as a villain here. Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm not sure I've ever seen him turn in a bad performance, and frankly, I'm not sure he ever will. He is great as Doctor Strange, undeniably. And Doctor Strange is one of the most interesting characters the MCU has. I'm really excited to see what they do with him in the future. I think his arc in this film is really great. I've loved to see his arc in the whole MCU, really. Like, this is a Iron Man level arc at this point, going from that asshole to, obviously sacrificing his life for the universe. And I really like to see that Doctor Strange has completely morphed from that original version we knew him as in 2016. And I'm looking forward to seeing how much more he will change as more time passes. And then America Chavez is the new introduction here, and I really think she's great. I think she's a great addition. I like her powers. I think she works well in the film. I think she's just fun. Just a lot of energy there. I think Marvel knew what they were doing in putting her in the film and casting that actress. And I look forward to seeing more of her in the future. And then one final thing I wanted to touch on. I don't know why I put it at the end, really. But the score of the film done by Danny Elfman was a little mid, in my opinion. I thought there were multiple musical cues that were just did not really work. And then there were some that did. Again, especially the second time. Like the first time I had much more of a problem with it, and then I saw it a second time. I'm like, I actually like that bit. But, I had to mention it. I had some problems with the score. So, folks, overall, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, main points I want to boil down to. Elizabeth Olsen's performance a bit distracting. I did appreciate the cameos despite the fact that they were clearly forced and are not really necessary to the film. Raimi style, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I really like that it was here. And overall, folks, I had a lot of fun in this film. I saw it the first time. I was like, teetering on the border between a B and an A. I have some problems, but I still had fun. And then I saw it a second time, and it is cemented in my mind as an A, because I thought Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was a ton of fun. I had a good time with it. Sure, it has problems. Sure, there's some wasted potential. But I very much enjoyed the film. I think it is a very brisk watch. It goes by insanely smoothly and quickly, to be honest with you. So this is one, like in the future, if I need to just watch an MCU film, I can see myself just putting this on because it's fun, it's clever, it's creative, it feels a bit refreshing. And it is one that I enjoyed. Is it one of my favorite films in the MCU? Not by any means. I think it is just outside even the top 20, to be honest with you, which is not indicative of its quality, but again, the quality of the other MCU films and how much I like them. But Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is an A, and I did enjoy it. All right, folks, let me know what you think of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This one has been one of the most controversial MCU projects in a hot minute. So if you liked it, let me know down below. If you didn't like it, let me know down below. Let me know some things that maybe I didn't talk about, or if you agree or disagree with some of the things I talked about. Folks, I've been EDPC Reviews. You have been just the absolute best. I'm excited for the future of Doctor Strange, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Miss Marvel, I believe, is the next MCU project. June 8th. No. Is it June 8th? Well, Thor's July 8th, so maybe I'm mixing it up. Or maybe it really is June 8th. It's June something, and it's a single digit. So, folks, I'll see you for Miss Marvel. Or if you choose to come back before then, that would also be much appreciated. Bye-bye.